Okay, so who are the Scopely Peer Group? So if you are new, and there are a few people here, we're now 2,973. We were 1,270 something 12 months ago. So those that have been approved and accepted into the group, we've more than doubled in size. So quite extraordinary. It's been running for 5 years. It's a group that has been actively supporting each other for many of those years, all about trying to make faster and more confident, better coordinated action on supply chain emissions. And Lord knows we need that. So it's completely free for these meetings. We do try to make sure as much of the content and knowledge and projects for the group is for free, and it's funded for a variety of different methods. And I know that many of you would have attended. In fact, we had 430 different people attend in London over 3 days. So that was a fantastic few days a month ago, but also helped pay quite considerably for the year ahead for all the work that we're doing. So huge thanks to everyone that contributed to that, and you can get a sense of what we're all about. You're about to find out what is going on in the peer group very, very rapidly. Right, there are 5 challenges we like to put forward for every meeting. So everyone submits problems into the peer group every month. I have an amazing amount of data about what everyone's hopes, dreams, and ambitions are. So there are 5 challenges being posed today. Those challenges will be made available in the SurveyMonkey link that will be in the chat. So take a look at that. It'll also allow you to fill it out in the Zoom poll. So both the SurveyMonkey and the Zoom poll do basically the same things. You can use either, it doesn't matter. All of the data will flow back to me, and then you'll get invited or sent the right information that you need. So I will launch the poll in a second, and I'll also repost the SurveyMonkey link. But if you have any thoughts about these questions, please put some thoughts in the poll, or put them in the survey, or simply share them in the chat. We'd love your thoughts in the chat. The people who have asked these questions will be in the room. You can imagine a lot of people asked number 1, to be honest. So if anyone's got any thoughts about that, I'm sure everyone will be glad to find out what you're doing. But we'll use this session to do that. I will then send around a sort of anonymized list of answers for all of these questions. So everyone will get a chance to look at what everyone thinks about these 4 questions. So I'm going to launch the poll of destiny, as we call it, or I call it. Again, you can move it out of the way. I suggest keeping it open, not trying to fill it all out in one go. Listen as you go. There are lots of different projects, but you can start to fill out some of the answers to these questions, and they're usually the last questions in the poll. So take your time, move it to one side, and have it open for you. If the poll doesn't work, Zoom can be a bit temperamental. As I mentioned, you've still got the SurveyMonkey list. What is the agenda for today? There is absolutely no mere point me putting this agenda on the slide, because there's over 20 speakers for 2 hours. It would just fill about 3 slides. So just enjoy it and bear with me while we cycle through speaker after speaker. Be on your toes, listen up. There's plenty of information coming your way. And as I said, it is all being recorded, so you can watch it back. But do, as I said, feel free to ask questions of people after they've spoken in the chat, and we can really follow the whole process as we go. Right, we better start with our next meeting. Emily, are you here, Emily?
Yes, here. Hi, everyone.
Do you want to take us through the plan for Chicago very briefly?
Absolutely. So as many of you know, and you might have attended the London event or the Chicago event last year, what we're looking to do this year for Chicago is quite similar, but obviously catering to our North American colleagues. We'll start off with day 1 on the 24th of June, which is really a space for existing initiatives and projects to meet. So this will include the likes of automotive and equipment manufacturing, supply chain heat decarbonization, and many more to come. Day 2 is really the main day. It's the main meeting where we put everyone together in the room, as you know, to share about common challenges. We'll put you together, in teams of 6 based on your industry, maturity, and challenge, so that you can really get down to business and talk about what matters. And then day 3 is really to translate that inspiration that you hopefully get from that second day into action. And so those are workshops on topics like supplier engagement, capacity building, product carbon footprint, and much, much more. So that is the plan for Chicago. We have a lot of really great people already involved that will be sharing at the meeting. You can see them here. We've got the likes of Bristol Myers Squibb, Suntory, General Motors, Essity, and more. So yeah, there will be lots of exciting discussions happening.
And a huge thanks to you, Emily, for pulling this together. I finally accepted help and discovered someone who's even better at putting an agenda together. So delighted to have you involved in this, and thanks for pulling some of these people. There's some real characters in this list, by the way. So it's going to be a real fun meeting. There is a lot of emotions and thoughts and dreams and ambitions in this, and some amazing progress, some genuinely amazing progress from companies you wouldn't necessarily have realised are doing some great stuff. So yeah, thanks for putting it together. And so what sort of things are we going to cover, Emily?
Yeah, so I mean, we've been hearing all of you at London and over calls for the last couple of weeks. And I think, you know, the main point of discussion will be how to balance all of this uncertainty, this changing landscape, with the necessity of driving actual decarbonisation. So that is, let's say, our main goal, alongside, of course, making sure that you understand who your peers are in the room, what they're working on, and yeah, hear from others what their progress stories are, what works, what doesn't, how are they engaging with suppliers, how can you secure internal buy-in, work with your leadership, and of course, another elephant in the room is legislation. How do you get ahead of EU and US state-driven regulations? So yeah, lots of interesting topics there. And of course, if you have anything that you feel like you would like to share, or any ideas or suggestions, we'd still love to hear about it. We're in a good place with the agenda as it stands, but always open to hear if you've got any more thoughts or stories to tell.
Exactly. Yeah. And through many conversations with you in North America, it was pretty clear to me, having obviously we've worked a lot in North America, they're huge North American, over 40% of the Scope 3 peer group globally are in North America. It felt very clear that the individuals know what they want to do. Their businesses perhaps want it positioned into slightly different ways. So again, you can be sure that the agenda of what we're going to be discussing, working on in Chicago, will nail exactly what you need to do as professionals. We just might have to dress it up a little bit in different ways, but that's fine. I'm sure we'll be very, very practical, as you know we are, but there'll be plenty of opportunities to help each other and support each other through the next probably 4 years, I would suspect, as well. But Emily, thank you so much for all of that. Okay, big announcement. So a lot of people have heard that we've been teasing this out. So just before Christmas, the Scope 3 Peer Group Advisory Board made it pretty clear that 2025 needed to be a year where we did things differently. We need to do things differently in many different ways. So I talked about this in January in London, but we are launching a program called Innovation for Impact. I think that's what it's called at the moment anyway. Lots of people said it needed to include innovation. Lots of people said it needed to include impact. So I just went for Innovation for Impact. I don't care what it's called, really. It's really about what it does. We need you to do things differently. I think you agree that. We need to buy and use different things. We need to collaborate where there's no obvious solutions. And pooling our demand in the peer group, 3,000 companies, 430 of you came to London. If we pooled our demand and our support, we could achieve quite a few things. So I'm delighted to have joined the WBCSD's Centre for Decarbonisation Demand Acceleration. One thing we do need to change is these ridiculous names and acronyms, don't we? But anyway, in the short term, I've been delighted to join their advisory board, and also partnering up with Sustainable Ventures, who many of you would have experienced their offices and their working space in London. More about what we're going to actually do as a group very shortly, but I'm going to pass over to the guys in a second to explain a little bit more. So just to explain how I see it, here's a couple of examples. So we do need to collaborate where there's no obvious solution. So things like supply chain heat decarbonisation. For certain temperatures, obviously, there aren't necessarily any commercially available technologies that are ready and able to willing. They're getting there, but not always, and certainly not always in the right places in the world that we need them. So where there are a need for new solutions or solutions that don't exist, we will get the peers together and we will find the initiatives or the groups or the projects ideally that already exist and support them and get behind them. We also need to buy and use different things. So many of you really think that we need to start thinking more about decarbonising supply, not just suppliers, which was one of the themes that came out of London. So things like low carbon chemicals and solvents, very common across the group and lots of different companies. So we're going to be working with partners like the CDDA and others to aggregate that need and that demand together to really go and find different things to be putting into our products and making them with. We also need to do things differently. So it's clear we can't carry on just doing incremental, even aggressive incremental best practice sharing. We need to actually invent some of that new best practice as well. So whether it's supplier engagement, data procurement, whatever, we're going to continually to try to do things differently. So those of you that are willing, genuinely willing to try and look at things differently and do things differently, and your businesses will be willing to support that, you can apply to come to our first workshop for those that really want to see if we can reinvent the way that we're tackling Scope 3 in a number of different ways. So the answer is very simple. You'll be invited to a workshop with your peers, and we're going to put all of those ideas and challenges down on paper and shortlist a range of different things that we'll be focusing on. With that, I'm going to hand over to Emily from Sustainable Ventures. Are you there, Emily?
I am. Thank you so much, Ollie, and lovely to see so many of you on the call. And apologies that anyone who was there in London, you might hear a few things repeating. But essentially, I just wanted to step back out why we're so excited to be working together, and to give a little bit of context around Sustainable Ventures. And how we're planning to bring the solutions to help address the problems, and really excited to be taking action and doing things differently. So just to quickly recap, Sustainable Ventures is a climate tech accelerator for climate tech start and scale ups. And we support startups in three broad ways. So we invest in some of them. We have a fantastic workspace, which lots of you got to come and actually experience in January. But we also have expanded across the UK. And then we have support services, which is where I sit within the corporate innovation team. And working with so many corporates, we've sort of identified three roles that corporates are really keen to play. And you can see them on the slide, talking about buy, sell, and grow. And it's really relevant for this innovation for impact work stream. Ollie, if you're sharing, I think the slides have just gone down.
Yeah, sorry.
Amazing. Fabulous. Okay, so I just wanted to quickly go through the sort of roles that we have experienced, and then I can just give you a flavour of the breadth and depth of solutions that we're hoping to bring to this innovation for impact workstream. So the buy role is really corporates who are looking to pilot and test and deploy solutions directly into their value chain. And we've given an example of Nestle, fantastic organisation who we're working with, who've said, look, we really want to improve our manufacturing processes, and we'd like to work with innovators to help us to do that. Can we redistribute? Can we waste less? Then we have, and hopefully we've got Schneider Electric on the call. We've done a couple of open innovation programs historically with Schneider. In the sell kind of role, it was all about how can we actually specify and provide enhanced solutions for our own customers. So SV and Schneider Electric worked around solutions for zero carbon homes. Schneider actually went and acquired one of the startups in our ecosystem as the outcomes of one of those programs. And then finally, we've also got a real role emerging from corporates who want to help grow the climate tech ecosystem. We've got a great partnership with Google, where Google have said we'd like to support climate tech solutions to grow on our cloud, and we will have a fantastic support service to be able to do so. So there's kind of a flavour of some of the really exciting engagement opportunities and roles we're seeing from corporates. Ollie, if you go to the next slide, I'm going to switch the lens and just give a flavour for the breadth and depth of these startup solutions. So I use the word ecosystem a lot. We sort of go from a scale of 54 up to potentially 30,000. So SV to date have invested in 54 climate tech startups. They tend to be IP rich, co-founded. We've got a survival rate of 85%, and 63% of our portfolio have a minimum of one female founder, if not two. So they would be our core 54 who we work with exceptionally closely. Our supported level, we've got over 1,000 climate tech startups who are either co-located in our spaces, have been through our programs, we've provided support to. Our connected is about 3,000 who we know of, who we've been at events with, who we speak to, but we haven't provided direct services to. And then there's a 30,000 globally who are discoverable through our network of networks. So you can see why we're really excited at the opportunity to be able to bring some of these solutions together to address some of your problem statements. If we quickly go to the next slide, Ollie, and I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on the 5 sectors, but again, just to give you an idea of the variety of problems that we help to address. Built environment, future energy, circularity, which is as broad as low carbon concrete, to we have a sustainable fashion event happening this evening, and we have someone called Radiant Matter who are using cellulose to recreate sequins and make sure they're plastic free. Ag tech and food, and then obviously mobility. So we've got a fantastic range of innovations across those 5 very broad sectors. And finally, if we go to the next slide, I just wanted to give a couple of examples of where and how we're working with corporates to buy things differently and to collaborate where there are no obvious solutions. So on the left-hand side, I've got an example of established businesses who we have paired up through one of our innovation programs to explore whether or not they could work with these startups. Solivus on the right-hand side do lightweight solar panels. Jump on the left-hand side, look at how can you do carbon behavioral change within your organization. On the right-hand side of the slide, Bridge AI is a fantastic 8-partner strong consortium, which is using AI and climate tech to tackle the problem of food waste and food surplus in the UK manufacturing supply chain. So there's a huge amount of potential. And as I said at the beginning, SV is just delighted to be able to be involved and to work with, hopefully, as many of you as are interested, as part of this peer group to really show the possibility of solving problems differently with climate tech. Back to you, Ollie.
Awesome. And it's absolutely amazing to be working with you guys, not just because you've got an amazing space, more importantly, because you've got amazing contacts, technologies, processes, all of those good things. We are a huge community of problems. If we can combine with communities of solutions, imagine what we can achieve. So very, very excited by that. And on that note, I think we've got Annabelle from World Business Council Sustainable Development and CDDA, and perhaps your colleague. I don't know if he's there as well. So Annabelle, do you want to share some thoughts as well?
Wonderful. Thanks, Ollie. And I'll just share my screen if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Perfect.
Yep,
and I
see it.
100% agree that we do have an acronym issue at WBCSD, but it's
We
an
all
honor.
do, everywhere.
Yeah, it's an honor to join the Scope 3 peer group today to share an update on WBCSD's new Centre for Decarbonisation Demand Acceleration, or the CDDA for short. And by way of introduction, my name's Annabelle Melhuish, and I'm the day-to-day program manager for the CDDA. So we're thrilled to be partnering with the Scope 3 peer group and your new Innovation for Impact program. And WBCSD brings together 42 members for the new CDDA initiative. So for those of you new to the CDDA, we're a 2-year initiative designed to empower companies to move from demand signals to demand action. So designed to empower businesses with the necessary knowledge to deliver on their demand signal. And so we see there's strong appetite to invest in zero and low carbon technologies to reduce Scope 3 emissions, but no single company can move these critical new clean technologies to commercialization alone. So that's the point of the CDDA, to support members in driving commercialization and deep decarbonisation of these clean technologies. So the CDDA is working together with our partners and our 42 members to tackle these challenges and to drive deep decarbonisation. And we have 4 focus areas. So the first being progressing standards, certification and market recognition. The second is really around building the business case and looking at opportunities and incentives to drive the adoption of clean technologies. Now the third is on building procurement capability, which is a close focus and opportunity for the Impact for Innovation program. And the fourth is around radical value chain collaboration. So I'll just take a moment to delve into these deeper and give you a sense of the work that the CDDA is leading. And thanks, Ollie, for introducing some of those earlier. So for our progressing standards, we're looking at really what constitutes near or net zero products and how we can create market recognition and interoperable markets. So our CDDA members have highlighted India, Europe, North America, China, and Japan as some of the markets that they want to hone in on. And I would call out specifically that it's not necessarily just hard to abate sectors we're looking at, but also fast-moving consumer goods. And opportunities to leverage chain of custody models to drive decarbonisation as well. So that's some of the areas of focus around progressing standards that we're excited to lead with the CDDA. Now, for expanding the business case, we're looking at opportunities and innovative incentives, some of those being avoided emissions, but others also relating to heat decarbonisation that you've touched on earlier, Ollie. And then focusing again on net zero commercial real estate assets. So how can we drive decarbonisation and scale innovative financing models there? So super excited to be launching this business case workstream as well. For building procurement capability, we're working really closely with the Scope 3 peer group, but recognising the opportunities for this procurement function to evolve to meet the challenges and drive deep decarbonisation, and opportunities to share peer learnings on carbon removals, avoided emissions, and price of carbon, just to name a few, and hosting several masterclasses from EU, US, and APAC as well. And finally, the radical value chain collaboration piece. We're super excited to be working closely with the chemical sector members on what their transition entails and how we can drive adoption of CCS, hydrogen, and renewable energy, to name a few. And as Ollie mentioned, the opportunities for demand aggregation to drive this transition in the chemical sector, recognising that this touches many WBCSD value chains from healthcare across to food and ag. So super excited about this collaboration piece across diverse value chains. And finally, as Ollie mentioned, we're really honoured that he's able to join as a strategic external advisor for the CDDA advisory board. So this will bring together significant leadership in decarbonisation and demand acceleration, both externally, but then joining additionally 5 WBCSD members for our advisory board. So really pleased and honoured that you can join us in the advisory board and to help drive impact with the CDDA platform. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to my Senior Director, Nancy Gillis, who unfortunately wasn't able to join today as she's on a panel for Energy Week in London, or myself, but really looking forward to the collaboration with the Scope 3 peer group. Thanks so much, Ollie.
Awesome, Annabelle. Thank you. And it's great to see the Sustainable Procurement Pledge involved. And many of you know that I have a role there, and I think the role of procurement in this is going to be crucial. Always interesting seeing my name on an advisory board. I'm not sure that I'm the wisest choice for any advisory board, but I think ultimately you guys, the 206 of you in front of me, really you're my advisory board. And if I can collect your needs and challenges, then hopefully I can be a voice through the CDDA for that, because I don't really know much, but I know lots of people who know lots of things. So hopefully you can be my advisory board for their advisory board, and it'll all fit together nicely. But it's very exciting. And as I said, if you're interested in solving big problems, particularly ones that the solutions don't exist yet, that sort of thing, click on the poll or the SurveyMonkey, let us know, but only do it if you're serious, because obviously we're going to have a workshop where we're going to want to get people together who have got really clear, maybe not clear, but certainly really urgent, pressing problems that they haven't perhaps quite got their head around yet. So we need people to be involved in that are serious. So please do make sure that you think about it before you press the button. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, something all of you have been waiting for a long time is the tools review. So many of you know we've been leveraging the power of the community to pull together a review of the Scope 3 tools in the market. I've had various emails sent to me saying, can you just tell us which ones are the most popular or the most common? So we'll get to that in a second. But Miguel, I apologize, I forgot to warm you up on this, but I wouldn't mind, would you mind just maybe sharing a little bit on some of those couple of slides you had at the end of the presentation in London for anyone that wasn't there, if you're there?
Absolutely, I'm here, Oliver, and I didn't know I was presenting, so that's good.
Yeah, I knew you would be.
No, that's good. So, hi, everybody. So this is in essence what we shared during the London event, and specifically we wanted to source from everybody here, right, from the peers, what are those things that others should know about as they're thinking about choosing a tool, right? And there were three things that came up very clear, right? So one was ensure your data is ready before tool deployment. This doesn't mean, by the way, because I did get people asking me, well, are you saying we should wait until everything is perfect and then get a tool? That's not what I'm saying, right? But you need to make sure that you are you acknowledge that if you put bad data in, the insights are not going to be great, right? So there's going to be a direct correlation there, right? So that's definitely the first one. The second one, it was all about supplier adoption. So the problem that we're seeing is everybody's looking for different tools, and the reality is it's not about the features on the tools and how they can help you. Like not even the best tool ever is going to be able to give you value if your suppliers don't use it, right? So that was the second biggest thing that came up in terms of make sure that you're connecting with your suppliers, make sure that it's adding value to their work streams, because otherwise you're not going to see the full value out of some of these investments, right? And the last thing was defining clear objectives to select a tool that can actually scale with your needs. I shared a slide in London that matched, what solution providers are building for, right? The maturity, and they're building tools for very high maturity companies. And then I matched it with the types of companies, like what are the things that they're asking for? And most companies are still on the lower maturity end of the spectrum, right? Based on the data. So the message here and the recommendation source from your peers was make sure you're buying into a tool that can grow with you, right? So if you are getting started, it's a tool that can help you at the early stage, but it can actually help you grow. So that was pretty much it, Oliver. I don't know if you have something else from the presentation here.
Only the next one.
All right. So this was also very interesting, right? So the other thing that we asked peers was, what do you want solution providers to know, right? And you guys saw how last year we called it the love letter, right? So this is not necessarily a love letter, but it's similar, right? So what are those things that everybody in the Scope 3 peer group wants suppliers, so I'm sorry, solution providers to know, right? And the first one was, and I see this all the time, right? Clarity over claims. So you can see some of the quotes that I chose, which, I mean, a clearly frustrated person saying like, stop telling me you have a silver bullet, right? So in my conversations with solution providers, I always emphasize this, right? So make sure that your websites, your messaging, it's not about saying end-to-end decarbonization at scale. Nobody cares about that. Nobody believes that, right? It's about being specific, right? So that's one of the key things that we want solution providers to deliver on, right? Being very clear, being transparent. It's great to have a score. It's great to have the insights, but if we don't know how, in layman terms, how the sausage is being made, right, we cannot trust the data in some cases, right? Because we all know that as we're improving our methodologies, the calculations are going to change, and end users are desperately wanting to be able to say, well, this is what changed, right? Maybe we changed emission factors databases, maybe we changed to more primary data, etc., right? So the solution providers are being asked by the peer group to be more transparent. And the third one, which was definitely one that came up and in heated discussions, for lack of a better term, was interoperability, right? And what that means is we want to make sure that if one company is asking suppliers for, hey, what are your total corporate value chain emissions, right? Or do you have science-based targets? Or do you have initiatives, etc.? If that supplier responds once, they should not have to respond the same information to yet another different tool, right? So we need, solution providers are doing a great job at trying to help all of the end users to make progress, but the reality is they might be holding progress back, right? If they are not able to share some of that data, obviously not everything, but primarily it should be more about, competing on features and service rather than on the basic data you're collecting from suppliers, right? So that's the highlights of the Scope 3 tools review.
Thanks, mate. I really appreciate that. And obviously get in touch with Miguel if you want to know more. It'll be interesting to see what you think as well. So we got a huge amount of data. There was hundreds of reviews of 50 different, I think it was different technologies submitted. So I'm now going to give you a thought on some of my insight from this as well, including the bit that many people wanted to know, which is what tools are there out there that are very common in the peer group. Now, we collected a lot of information. We collected Net Promoter Score on a lot of tools. And as Miguel very clearly said to me, you cannot publish Net Promoter Scores if you don't get good amount of data on certain providers. So I've got a lot of information, but some of it just frankly isn't sensible to be able to share more widely. But this is very true. These are the most commonly used tools in the peer group. So as I said, we had over 250 different people participate in the tools review. A few thoughts, the ones on the right. So Seagreen, many of you in the chemicals industry will know Seagreen. One of the reasons why Seagreen is so common in the peer group is that most of the companies in Together for Sustainability are using Seagreen. Obviously, EcoVadis were going to be very high in commonality in the peer group as well, because lots of people use EcoVadis. So those ones on the right are the ones that are quite significantly more commonly used in the peer group, but for different reasons perhaps. Then you've got the bulk of those in the middle. Again, a mixture of those that have been used by somewhere between 8 and 15 companies, clients as well, maybe slightly more in the peer group. So that gives you a good sense of those that are in the mid-range. And then there's some on the left there that have been used by a number of different peers. And then there was a whole load of other tools that have been used by one or two of the peers as well, which I didn't want to necessarily go into this. So if you just want to know which are the most common tools in the peer group, not the most popular, not the most loved, or any of those sorts of things, then this is your guide. It was pretty clear to me, though, again, this is my opinion, not necessarily a statistical analysis, but definitely those more mature solutions that do wider things than Scope 3 scored lower in the Net Promoter Score than the newer, more focused ones. I think that means a lot of things, and perhaps there's a growing frustration with platforms that have been around for a while, but it also means that obviously AI tech, etc., has been developing fast. As you would have heard from Miguel, and you'll see in the thing, there are many people using more than 2 solutions in some cases, and they're building that tech stack. So again, there are a few people on the call here who actually have bought 2 or in some cases 3 of these solutions on your screen, which is interesting to know. Again, one thing that is clear from the data is that I have good understanding about who could help another peer to advise them about different experiences and situations that they've been in with different tools. So if continue to email me if you'd like to be introduced to another peer who can give you a frank and hopefully honest view of what those technologies are. So more of that data coming out as I work out how best to use this to help you all, and I hope you find it useful. So next one, very quickly, moving on, we have a carbon pricing project. So been working with the Sustainable Procurement Pledge to develop a set of carbon pricing principles. So these are a set of principles that hopefully, if businesses start to adopt them and use them, will really create that baseline of support and incentivization for suppliers, enable them to actually baseline as well. So it's all about putting a methodology for carbon pricing into tender decisions. Many of you will know about this project. Chris Lowe and others are on the call here today. So if you're interested in finding out more about this, and I know many of you have found out much about this, there'll be recordings that we'll be sharing from the peer group from previous sessions. But the next meeting of the pilot group is on the 5th of March. So if you're interested in actually piloting carbon pricing, me and Chris and Bayer and from Halion and Bayer, from Olive from Bayer and others, I've been enjoying many emails coming in and saying people are willing to adopt and try and pilot these carbon pricing principles. Then yeah, please do let us know. If you go into the SurveyMonkey link in the chat, you can actually click and find the actual link to the principles as well. And let us know if you're interested in coming to that meeting. Next quick update, and we are going to rattle through a lot of updates, I can assure you. In London in January, many of you were asking about how to engage suppliers on supply chain heat decarbonisation. So there's some great work going on around the world about decarbonising heat. I've worked with the Renewable Thermal Collaborative and others. On the left was the notes that I very badly made in London from our supply chain heat decarbonisation workshop, including the really dark words which were written in permanent marker on a whiteboard. So sorry to Sustainable Ventures for your now ruined whiteboard. Yeah, we'll make it up to you. But out of the scribbles of that was the words mega letter. And in the last 4 weeks, we've actually acted upon that. So Thanks to AstraZeneca and many others who were part of that workshop, who shared round the Let Green Gas Count joint letter to the Greenhouse Gas Protocol for clarity on the role of market instruments for renewable gaseous fuels. We've all sent that around. I know many of you have signed it. If you go to letgreengascount.org, you can actually look at the letter, and we'll send around the link. I'll put the link in the chat as well. So we are taking action, and there will be a working group coming up looking at some of the other things on that scribble there, as well, as we look to see if we could do collaborative supplier engagement on heat decarbonisation, which would be very cool to do. So do let us know, do get in touch, and as I said, you can use the poll or the survey to get an update on that. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to, let me refer to my things, my fantastic partner in crime, Alex from Schneider Electric. Are you there, Alex?
Good morning, Ollie. How's it going?
I'm all right. How you doing? Good to see you.
Good.
Over to you.
Let me share my screen. Give me one moment. Can we see that?
You can? Yeah, presenter mode and you're ready to go.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, great. So it's good to see many of you. I haven't seen a lot of you since London. And for those of you that I didn't meet, my name is Alex Makatons. I work with the Schneider Electric supply chain decarbonization team, and I have been partnering with Ollie to help run our decarbonization working group session. For those of you who have attended, you will know that we are coming up on session 4. Very exciting and salient because the topic is supplier data. So we are really going to use this time to talk about, what data to collect, how to collect it, when to collect it, how to refine it. And so this time around, I'm going to be a bit selfish and hog the limelight. So we are not going to have guest speakers. Ollie and I will be your, central presenters. I'll talk a bit about our own programs, how we approach many of these different topics. And then based on peer group feedback, we're really going to release you into small groups so that you can talk through this on your own, kind of take the things that I've said, the gaps that I've identified, and build off of that with one another during collaborative time. The working group is going to take place next Thursday. That's, let's see, March 6th, I believe. And I wrote down all of the different times. So that is going to be March 6th at 7 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. London, and 4 p.m. mainland Europe. So that's really all for me, and would love to see you guys there.
Thanks, Alex. Excellent. And it is the most popular working group by some way, which, when our mantra is about really focusing on actual decarbonisation, is refreshing to see. So over 200 peers are part of that working group, and huge thanks again, Alex, for all the work that you've done putting that together. And again, I think importantly this time it's about thinking about supplier data in order to make decarbonisation happen. So actually engaging those suppliers on renewable energy, actual decarbonisation. So I think it's going to be quite an important session to be able to understand. And that's why, again, I think it's quite important to hear how through the Energize program and other great programs that Schneider do, how you encourage the people who are doing and succeeding so well to use data to get to those suppliers and engage those suppliers correctly. So thank you, Alex, as always good to see you. Clarissa from the Chancery Lane Project. Are you there, Clarissa?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Okay, over to you. Welcome. Your first meeting, I think.
Yes, this is my first meeting. Thank you very much.
Come on in.
Thank you. Thanks very much. It's lovely to meet everybody. I'm Clarissa Lambourne. I work for the Chancery Lane Project. So we're kicking off a climate contracts working group. It's for people and companies actively looking to align their contracts with their climate targets. So this is for sustainability and procurement professionals, as well as your lawyers. So please bring your lawyers along. It might be boring, but we are part of this solution. We meet monthly, and our first meeting is tomorrow at 1:00 p.m. So if you're interested, as Ollie said, fill in the poll or the Survey Monkey, or you can give me your email address and I'll make sure to send you the invites. That's it. I hope to see you all there.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And the guys did a great job in London talking about how we're going to systematically collaborate to understand how to embed climate clauses into contracts. So many of you are already doing it. AstraZeneca have been doing it for a couple of years. So many of you do it. And these guys did not know that you were doing it. And they are a non-profit that creates these clauses that you're using. And trust me, it's so important that they know that you're doing it. The other benefit of knowing that you're actually doing it is because you can then share your experiences with people who are trying to do it. Because let's be honest, it's not often a case of cutting and pasting these clauses and shoving them into contracts. You need internal engagement. So that working group that's tomorrow, again, if you can make it, that's fine. If not, it's going to run monthly every last, I'm tempted to say last Thursday every month, but
Yep,
regardless,
that's
you'll
fine.
get, thanks, Clarissa, you'll get the invites to it. You can join it at any time. But just to emphasize, particularly in the poll or the survey, if you're already using climate clauses, please let us know because we need your insight, and we definitely need to let the Chancery Lane Project know so they can help you further. Wouldn't it be cool if we were all using the same clauses in our contracts, or pretty similar anyway? That would be pretty good for everyone. So thanks, Clarissa. Bridget from Proxima. Hi, Bridget, are you there?
Hey, I am. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Great. So for those of you who I haven't met, my name is Bridget McCormick. I'm with Proxima. I'll just give a quick update on the Scope 3 Strategy Collective. I don't have slides. I didn't want to get too in-depth here, as I know a number of you are already fairly familiar with it. But just what it is really quickly, it's a 16-week program where we take multiple companies through developing their own sustainable procurement strategy. So it's done in a cohort. We take you from segmentation to identifying decarbonization levers, supplier engagement, enablers, developing a plan, and then refining and finalizing your sustainable procurement strategy. So really end to end within that process. We still have a number of open slots if anyone's interested in joining. As I mentioned, it's a collective, so the cost of it is shared across organizations that are involved. So each company pays a very small fee versus one of you paying a very large fee for us to do it with you one-on-one. But because of that, we need to ensure we have enough companies involved to run it. So I'll drop an info PDF in the chat, and if you have any questions, reach out, but we'd love to have you involved. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. And I know that we've had several people from the cohort probably on the call today. I think Booking.com and John Lewis Partnership and various, and the feedback's been amazing. And again, the opportunity, particularly if you're nearer the start of your journey, to get that support, to get up and running and really fine tune your Scope 3 strategy with your peers, sharing the effort is awesome. And as I said, yes, we've got great people running it, but the ability to borrow the ideas from each other and move faster together, the feedback's been amazing. So it's great to see that we can now take people's who've got a lower maturity in certain areas and actually get them into groups to try and solve it. And just as always, Bridget, thanks so much for you guys for everything you do for the peer group. I think we all appreciate it. Also, if you're not aware, we do have the Scope 3 benchmark. So Proxima provide the Scope 3 maturity benchmark for the whole of the peer group. Several $1 trillion worth of companies have taken it already. It gives you some fantastic insight. So go to scope3benchmark.com and you can complete it for free and find out what your peers are actually doing compared to you. And also how much budget and resources they've got, which is the thing you all really want to know, particularly, I think, at the moment. So do take part and get involved in that. We've got lots coming up. We've got the SBTI, we've got many others. Should probably take a break, but we're not going to. So we're going to hand over to Gemma Baker from Accenture now. Hi, Gemma.
Oh, thanks, Ollie. Is this everyone's break? Good to see everyone, and in particular those folks that I was lucky enough to meet in person. So hopefully you can all see my slides. Super, and you can't see your faces at the side, hopefully. So lovely to see all of you. I've just got a couple of pages. I'm Gemma Baker, sustainability leader at Accenture, and it's been a fantastic collaboration over the past 12 months in life sciences. So this is just a very quick recap of who we are and I guess what we stand for. That's our mission. It's to connect supply chain decarb activities across the whole life sciences industry So we're global in scope, and we're very inclusive. Those are our principles, very much in line with the broader Scope 3 peer group. What I wanted to do is kind of give a tiny micro version of what we covered in the London workshop a few weeks ago. So a quick update and recap on what we've achieved in the past year, a summary of our decarbonisation playbook that we published in October with PSCI. I can see Chris, colleague, on the call as well, and then alignment on our next project, which is category-specific decarbonisation playbooks. So this is what we've achieved, kind of try to write it on a page to bring everyone on the journey in London. So since January last year, we have conducted, I think, 4 workshops, so some in person, some virtual, involving about 100 people across life sciences, many different companies represented, perhaps about 30. We, through that, have identified the key Scope 3 decarbonisation challenges and also the solutions. We came out with a couple of key, we'll call them assets. So the first one is the blueprint for life sciences decarbonisation. Really, this is a simple one-page table that we keep updated, but it was a good initial baseline to understand this is everything that's already happening, links to sort of key standards and commitments and groups, for example, but also helped us to understand the gaps where perhaps there isn't collaborative initiatives. And one of those such gaps was the second piece, which was the PSCI decarb playbook for the industry, which I'll cover in a sec. So really in the last 12 months, we've collectively come up with those 2 key areas, but also scoped some, let's say, objectives around, for instance, partnering with the likes of WBCSD Pact on the PCF methodology, but for life sciences specifically. Accelerating procurement upskilling is another, looking at an industry business case is another. So we've had a really good collaboration over the past 12 months. Quick plug for our decarb playbook. Hopefully quite a few of you have read it already, and indeed we've had, I think, about 1,800 downloads already since it was published in October. That the feedback's been really good. For those that haven't seen it, we cover 24 decarbonisation initiatives, ranging from green heat to take back to primary packaging reduction, that type of thing. We also give quite a lot of detail on addressability, cost, timelines, potential impact. So the idea is it serves as a practical guide for pharma in terms of decarbonising across all scopes, actually, and some useful frameworks included. I have had others say, even from other industries, that it's been a useful resource. So I'll ping in the chat link, ping in the chat window the link after this. So that was the overall playbook. That the next slide, which is the last one, is where next. And so out of London, what we collectively as an industry group decided is that our next Do project should focus on category specific playbooks. And so this is really to make it easier for category managers who want to take some of the levers from the playbook, but need a lot more specificity in order to really make it real in their organisations. And so in the session, we agreed on this structure. So you've got the what as part of those playbooks, so what we should focus on, so category by category, we'll be producing documents, for example, on APIs, on logistics, on packaging eventually, that capture the what, the value and the how. So the what being the relevant decarbonisation initiatives for that category, the suppliers that the industry would need to engage for that category, the why, which is the value, is really the business case, so the total abatement cost, but also abatement potential for that particular category and lever. And then the how we implement, your governance, your tracking and metrics, etc. So I think in summary, we're really pleased that this came out of the London workshop. It was a really fantastic session. So thanks for everyone that was involved or perhaps has fed back to me and others afterwards. And we're just really excited for what the next few months holds. So look forward to coming back in the next group of group session and hopefully reporting back on how this piece has progressed.
Awesome, thank you so much. And I think I speak for many people when I say that category decarbonisation, category specific decarbonisation, and including helping procurement to bake decarbonisation into category strategies is something that both the Scope 3 Peer Group and the Sustainable Procurement Pledge is very, very keen to do. So it's great to see that happening. And yeah, great to see you want to do it in food and drink, Andy. We will definitely be in touch. Again, I think if everyone can get these playbooks in that kind of matrix of categories, it would be really, really awesome. So we'll keep working on that. Gemma, thanks for all you do. I really appreciate it. Okay, the final of this section, which is really the Do project. So these are projects that the Scope 3 Peer Group has been doing itself. Is one of the most exciting, I think, definitely. So Luke, are you there to talk about our Scope 3 procurement training program?
Hi, Ollie, and hello, everyone. Yes, I am. Can you see my slides?
Getting there.
Getting there.
Loading. Yeah. There we
Loading.
go. Yeah, got it.
Loading. See them? Got them. Brilliant.
Yeah, we got it.
Hi, everybody. Hello, everybody. Luke from Equipoise here. My colleague John is also on the call. He'll be posting some links in the chat. I do have a few slides to run you through, some of which you may have seen before, but for anyone who's new to this group, and Ollie, as more and more people joining the peer group, I think there might be some new people here. So we'll just give a brief overview of what this initiative is all about, show you some of the initial outputs, including some of the outputs that we had from the London Strategy Day, and also then finally about how you can get involved. So essentially a year ago, the peer group came to us and said that we need to have a place where we can send our buyers and our category managers to educate them on how to decarbonize their supply chain. Back then, there were resources everywhere, there were playbooks, there were tools, but it was all really spread out and we didn't really know like a single place to send anyone. So what we've been doing over the last 1 year is collating best practice and resource from among the peer group and from other sources to essentially try and build the definitive Scope 3 procurement training program. We've had over 250 peer group members who have supported us on this journey and 9 organizations who have actually backed us with money to help us do that. And since November 2024, we've held 5 out of 7 monthly working group meetings to really start driving forward the initial phase of this work. We also had a workshop in London, which was fantastic, and thank you for everyone who attended there. Ollie, it's very hard to hold a workshop with 100 people, but I think we just managed to do it. So yeah, what is this initiative all about? It's effectively about trying to build training that is going to be suitable for any organization of any size to decarbonize their supply chain. We split that up into phases. So what we've been working on right now is developing a learning pathway. So what's going to be in that syllabus, defining a training specification. So how is the training going to look and feel, collating those best practice resources, and then identifying any gaps based on that. Our next piece of work, which is already underway, and some of you might have seen at that strategy day in London, we've been trying to fill some of the gaps that we found already by filming training content with different peer group members and other experts that we've brought in. So really try to plug those gaps already. And that's all with a view to launch the training in 2025. We will know for sure at the end of April how many gaps we've got, and then therefore how many things we need to do to fill those gaps. And we'll let you know at the end of April what that's going to look like. As I mentioned, we've been funded to start this initiative. So just a quick thank you to all of the funders that are on screen here. Without their support, we wouldn't have been able to get this off the ground. And then we've got some links here, which are obviously far too small for you to see. But if you click on that QR code, or if you follow the link that my colleague John is going to put in the chat, you can see where we currently are with that learning pathway. At a very high level, we've got 4 sections to the learning pathway. Firstly, trying to understand what is Scope 3, what is the impact of procurement on Scope 3, then how can procurement teams start to plan engagement with their suppliers, how can they build these decarbonisation strategies. Then we've got the 3rd section, which is all about ACT. It's about what can actually any organisation anywhere do to engage their suppliers and start driving decarbonisation. And then the subject of our next working group meeting, which is review, is how does this link into things like your organisation's reporting obligations, and how can you continuously improve the activities that you're going through. So kind of familiar for procurement folk, it follows a procurement cycle there. With regards to how the training is going to look, I've just got a few quick bullet points here. So some things to emphasize is that the training is very much focused on Scope 3 and procurement. It is very much built for procurement, by procurement. It's going to have a cross-industry relevance across any organization of any size. It's a curation of your best practice and resources, and it will be initially launched as an e-learning. That is because we want to make sure that this is scalable for both your large procurement teams and also the suppliers of your procurement teams. And we're going to expect the cost of that e-learning to be around 500 per learner. And of course, there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to want to do after that training is launched to make sure the insights are bang up to date as well. And then, yeah, lastly, my last 30 seconds, I do have a timer, Ollie, don't worry, is how you can get involved. So if you would like to join the initiative, please follow the link that John is putting in the chat. We're using a collaboration platform to host all of the working group sessions, and you can see all of the training materials that we're like going through, and so you can join that space. If you're interested in contributing some of your own great ideas, then please get in touch with us and we would love to feature you in the training. And then finally, if you would like to join that esteemed panel of 9 funders, we do have some last opportunities left. If you're seeking to give us a little bit of investment and fund phase 2 of content development, we would be very happy to have you on board. Thank you.
Awesome, Luke. That's brilliant. I don't have a timer, which is amazing considering that this meeting is absolute madness. But I just like to wing it. It's just the way I go. Just huge thanks to Luke and John. I know so many are involved in that working group. It is phenomenal. The quality of the stuff that we're pulling together from all of your best practices is incredible. And huge thanks to all of those that put money in. And it is a considerable undertaking. So thanks to those that have put the money in. Obviously, we'd love to get some more funding. Otherwise, it will come out of my pocket. And so I'd prefer if it came out of your pockets. But do please do bring it in. As I said, we'd love to have you involved. Even if you've just got knowledge and content, we want you involved. And it's going to be very, very exciting when it's launched. Who knows, maybe for Climate Week in New York, but we'll see. We'll see. Okay, who's next? Now moving to external initiatives. So probably a nice segue, actually, to is Lydia there from We Mean Business?
Yeah, I'm here, Ollie.
Hey, over to you. Talk about SME Climate Hub and things like that.
Amazing. Let me just share my screen. Perfect. Hopefully everyone can see it.
We can.
Amazing. So I'm going to give you a really quick update on a couple of things, SME Climate Hub, and then I'm also going to hand over to Elliot from B4NZ to give you another SME update. So we're going to manage to do it in 5 minutes. So back in October last year on the SME Climate Hub, we launched an action space which brings together all of our resources, tools, courses, guidance for SMEs into one place, which is great because it kind of helps an SME find what they need. And this year we've been working on adding 3 new tools to it that I just wanted to kind of showcase, highlight to the group. So we've been really focusing on carbon calculators this year for SMEs, and we have launched or will launch 3 carbon calculators. So the first one, and these are all free and all aimed at SMEs. The first one we're working on now, it'll launch towards the end of March, and it is called the Small Business Carbon Calculator, and it's really aimed at that smaller segment of SMEs. It's built off the previous tool we had on the SME Climate Hub, if you remember that, and it is aimed at a small SME, 1 to 50 employees, just starting measuring, really simplified down so that they can get to a basic scope 1, 2, 3 kind of profile for free. And then we also have partnered with 2 great organizations to provide free carbon calculators. So the first one is the Advanced Business Carbon Calculator, where we've partnered with Equipoise. And this is really a spreadsheet-based tool. It's an internal business tool for those SMEs. It helps maybe multi-site SMEs who have different sites across countries, slightly larger SMEs, ones who are a bit more mature in their carbon measurement, to have a way to measure. It's got all the emission factors it uses kind of live in the tool, so it can be audited, which is great for an SME wanting to take that step. And again, it gives a scope 1, 2, and 3 profile. And then we have a scope 3 calculator where we've partnered with EmitWise, and that really lets an SME deep dive on their scope 3, input procurement data, and then get out a kind of scope 3 profile, and also get to a sense of supplier by supplier, what are the different impacts, so they can kind of begin to see which their highest emitting suppliers are. So that's that. I'll put some links in the chat, and we've also got some webinars planned after we've launched all the tools, and I'll put that in the chat too. But I'll hand over to Elliot from B4NZ to talk a bit about what they're doing with SMEs.
Thanks, Julia. And yeah, great to be on this call. I'm going to quickly talk you through the SME Sustainability Data Task Force that we've been leading here. And really this has come out of, we know that SMEs are overwhelmed at the moment by inconsistent and complex sustainability data requests from large corporate customers and financial institutions, making it very difficult to understand or know what data to report and how. And so to address this, we've been hosting the task force, which brings together finance bodies, SME representative bodies, industry, government, to align on a practical SME first approach to sustainability data sharing and disclosure. Our key focus is, as you can see on the screen, is really defining this common data standard, which is what we see as defining this minimum baseline of SMEs for SME sustainability reporting, starting with carbon and emissions related attributes that align to global frameworks whilst reducing complexity, really creating this common data currency as we see it. But then also promoting better data quality and establishing a clear universal scale for data accuracy to make SME reporting consistent, assurable, and ultimately machine readable, which is what we're calling PCAF for everyone. But then also we're developing some practical guidance and implementation for data sourcing and implementation to streamline data requests and data collection for SMEs. We're working with SME membership bodies, the IID, the FSB, banking partners like NatWest and corporates to really define this core baseline of 5, 8, 10 sustainability related metrics. And most excitingly and most recently, this work has been backed by the UK government as the first SME focused programme under the newly formed Net Zero Council, which is hosted within the Department of Energy Security and Net Zero. However, we really want your insight to make sure that this works not just for SMEs, but also for those who consume their data, the investors, the lenders, the regulators. And so this is really an opportunity to get involved, standardize the approach to SME reporting, but also drive forward a system that's interoperable for SMEs, changing their data requests through finance providers and corporates, and ultimately has the opportunity to unlock new green finance incentives and opportunities for SMEs. So thank you so much, and yeah, look forward to engaging with the group further.
Thank you both, Lydia and Elliot, and Lydia Elliot, and Elliot. If your name was Elliot Lydia, that would have been great, but it's not. But it's great to hear from you both. The most common challenge theme submitted to the peer group every meeting is supplier engagement. The most common supplier engagement challenge submitted every meeting is what to do with SMEs and low mature suppliers. So the work the SME Climate Hub and indeed these guys, Bankless and Net Zero B4NZ, yeah, that's right, are doing, I think is really exciting. So we do need to collaborate to help SME suppliers, and the more that is happening, the better. And great to see Equipoise involved in that as well, Luke. Well done. Okay, we're an hour deep. How does it feel, everyone? It's full on, isn't it? Anyway, we're almost there, sort of. So next up is Diane Bouzier from WBCSD and the Climate Drive. Are you there, Diane?
I am here. Thank you. So
Yep.
I hope I'm gonna, wake you up a little bit after 1 hour. It was really intense. So I'm gonna share with you some insights on two topics. First of all, a session we had the pleasure to host during Scope3 Days in London. So next frontiers of Scope3, and the Climate Drive will share a little update, especially on what's happening in 2025, how you can engage as Scope3 peer group members. So I came with some slides. But it will be brief, and please do not hesitate if you have some questions in the chat. So as I shared, I want to focus on two things here. The key insights from the session we had at Scope3 Peer Group Days. I think they were quite insightful for you also just to hear about what has been said, and also some numbers we collected in the polls in the room. And then the Climate Drive in 2025, how you can use it and contribute. So first of all, in the session, so during Scope3 Peer Days, here you can see a little bit, I would say the pulse we took in the room, understanding how you also as individuals and not only your organization is feeling towards the near-term Scope3 targets. And first of all, what we can see is that the vast majority, at least of the attendees in the room, so here's around 60 respondents, have 2030 near-term Scope3 targets. So everyone is now looking at 2030. Most of us. And then when it comes to the confidence about individuals, so not about, of course, we heard also in Scope3 Peer Days that there are targets at risk if we just look at the pace of, I would say, reduction. But you as individuals, of course, it was purely anonymous, but we can see that vast majority is not, I would say, confident. Of course, there are very different gradients, but only 25% feel confident their organization will reach it. 45% are unsure. And then 25% not confident but hopeful, and then we had 10% not confident at all. So it means that there is a lot of work maybe for us to do to understand what can be the big, I would say, enablers we can put internally to really ensure and maybe increase the success rate in terms of Scope3 targets by 2030, but also how we communicate and navigate this difficult situation within the organization, both internally and externally, how we keep confidence and motivation inside the company. And also, for example, versus stakeholders engagement beyond, such as suppliers. So that was a first piece of insights, very interesting. Then the second, so the purpose of the session was to work on those, I would say, key barriers and of course, identify solutions. And so we asked the attendants also, what are the top 3 internal barriers that you see in your organization to meet your near-term Scope3 targets? And here you can see the results of the top barriers. And so the top 3 internal ones that were mentioned was the first, the misalignment of business targets and emissions reduction ones. So overall, I would say lack of alignment in terms of KPIs throughout the organization. The second one was the lack of cross-organizational coordination as well. So of course, it might be with procurement, but might also be, for example, with R&D, marketing, and so on. So cross-organizational coordination and collaboration. And the last bit was the lack of capital allocation, and especially over the long term. So in the session, we decided to focus on those top 3 internal barriers. And I'm not going to go through all the rich breakout discussions. We had 4 going on in parallel. But here are maybe the 2 no regret areas of action that emerged from breakout discussions. And that was quite interesting to see that even if we were talking about different, I would say, initial barriers, at the end of the day, it was maybe coming up to those 2 big pillars. The first one, I would say, is more people-driven, and the second one is more enabling processes. The first one is really how you can engage and break silos within the organization. And of course, you're familiar with those ones, but it's always good to maybe repeat and remind ourselves. It's really about how can I find my allies within the organization. They might sit in other functions, and sometimes it's just also relying on individuals at first. It's also education. Of course, we speak a lot about educating suppliers, other functions, but it's also important, for example, educating leadership on Scope 3. How do you measure it? What are the uncertainties? How do you navigate this? And then finally, also important to mention the communication aspect. Communicating about the long-term budget needs within the organization is important, bringing the clarification of this. The second aspect I mentioned was the KPI alignment across the organization. And here, maybe I think for me, what's most important, of course, we mentioned carbon pricing. There's a lot of enablers here, but there is a lot of companies now that do not necessarily have the visibility of, I would say, the friction points, the conflicting aspects of these are my emissions reduction targets, and these are other targets within the organization, and they're not aligned with my own targets. So also maybe starting by doing this work might help to maybe also identifying some existing positive dynamics you can also leverage to get buying internally. So that was the key highlights of the session. There's of course more. What we did was building solution maps. So you can see here the screenshots, and I think it was shared by you, Oli, following those Scope3 days. So you can go back to it and see more into details what have been shared, the bold moves, the no regret actions, the key enablers by the attendants. So that was for the wrap up of the first session. And now I would love to share a brief overview on the Climate Drive. What are we doing this year? How you can engage as a Scope3 peer group member. So the Climate Drive, just to recap maybe briefly, is a capability building platform that we power at WBCSD. It's really open, anyone can use it. And the idea is really to support businesses to move from ambition to action and at scale. So meaning that we really empower you, your suppliers, also to upscale suppliers. And we have a lot of different partners and contributors, including you as part of the platform. So what's new in 2025? I wanted to share some highlights. First of all, we have exciting new partnerships. So really happy to share that we are now partnering also with the Sustainable Procurement Pledge. There is more to come here. We're also partnering with Deloitte to share to do a webinar series to upskill suppliers that will be available to Climate Drive users as well. It will be free. We will have new features and content here to highlight a few. We have new languages, especially of the Net Zero Guidebook. We know language is a big barrier. So we now have Chinese traditional one and also simplified one and Indonesian. So I'm sure also mentioning those ones because I know in engaging suppliers in APAC is also a challenge. We have now tailored recommendations and also flagging a new chapter adaptation. And more to come this year. So what we are going to focus our efforts on this year will be, first of all, improving, I would say, the overall experience and easiness for you to invite suppliers on the Climate Drive. To that extent, we will also think about developing an API, doing a pilot to see how we can plug into other systems, especially the Action Library, because we have now hundreds of resources, how we can disseminate this content at the scale where it has to be, not only on the Climate Drive. And then also, of course, leveraging AI. We already do with the content generator, but we'll keep doing so, especially for content recommendation. So how you can engage this year, there are three main ways. You can see them here. The first one is it's out there, use it to upskill your suppliers at scale. And I just wanted to highlight also there will be an opportunity for your suppliers who created an account on the Climate Drive this year to attend this free webinar series. It will start around Q2, end of Q2 this year. There is always this opportunity for you to publish, profile your best practices, the do that Oli is sharing at every session. So please do not hesitate. Then we'll get in touch once you fill the survey for you to publish your best practice. We have an AI content generator, so it's super easy. And I also wanted to flag that there are more and more industry playbooks. It's amazing to see. So I think here there's really a great opportunity to disseminate the key findings. Typically as action guides. So I guess in the industry playbook, it has specific decarbonization actions. Please come to me and we can see using the AI content generator, how we can also break it into maybe more actionable pieces and have it on the Climate Drive. and finally just use it. You can also be inspired. There are already amazing piece of actions. Halion also have been sharing, for example, about the carbon pricing and procurement. So there is a lot of also great learnings, I think, for everyone here. And I think that's it on my end. So I don't know if there are some questions, otherwise I would be happy to handle.
Yeah, brilliant. There's a few people asking a few things in the chat, Diane, so definitely get stuck into the chat.
Okay.
But just to clarify for everyone, imagine if we put all of our case studies in one place. That's basically what this is about. If we can get all of our best practice and put it into one place and make it freely available to everyone, that's the point of the climate drive. Well, certainly I see that as the point of the climate drive in many ways. So that's why we partner as a Scope 3 group. So all of our case studies don't go on my website, they go to the climate drive. As if everyone puts their stuff there, we can use one place for all of it. It would be pretty awesome. Thanks, Diane. You guys are amazing. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Getting near the end, saving some of the best to last. So Nicholas, another WBCSDer, over to you in the PACT program.
Thanks a lot, Ollie. And I don't know if you wanted the honors at the beginning, but we wanted to start with mentioning that we have signed an MOU between PACT and the Scope 3 peer group. So we're very excited to working even closer together, and we will share more about what it means to have signed this MOU, but thought it would nice starting off the update with that exciting news.
Yeah, indeed. It's great. I mean, we work so closely together, and again, the peer group is definitely clear that we need to start backing some really important horses, and you're one of the thoroughbred horses that is out there that's helping us all. So yeah, we're really, I think, all very happy to back what you're doing and help support it. So
thanks a lot. And yeah, let me provide a little bit of an update, actually quite a longer update than usual, because there have been some very exciting developments in the latest month. And just before going into the updates, a very short intro of what PACT is. For those who don't know us, PACT is a member or corporate-driven initiative that set the ambition and the objective of harmonizing how product carbon footprint emissions are calculated and then exchanged. So our two foundational documents are the PACT methodology, which is a harmonized way and a standardized way of how companies can calculate a product carbon footprint and also shape the data so it is able to be exchanged via the PACT network. The second document is the PACT network itself, so the text specifications, which enables any solution that want to become PACT conformant to join the network and in that way be able to exchange PCF data that was calculated with the methodology. So with that very short intro, and of course, please feel free to reach out if you are interested in learning more about what PACT is in general. You can reach out to us at pact@wbcsd.org. But in the latest month, we have been very busy in working on a new version of the PACT methodology. This existing version and the one being currently live on the website and used by companies and suppliers to calculate PCF is from January 2023. And since then, we have received feedback. We have worked on with companies on improving and evolving the methodology so that it stays relevant and the most applicable methodology possible for users, so for companies. So we have been working on a version 3 that will be published at the end of April, and that will include new key topics such as biogenic and CCUs, topics on data integrity. We've added some elements on service carbon footprints to add to the product carbon footprint space, and some other key topics that were mentioned as critical in evolving the methodology. We've received a lot of comments, above thousands of comments from 40+ companies and other organizations. What was really helpful is that these thousands of comments were actually very aligned. So we were very happy to see that there's a common understanding of what needs to be said and done within a harmonized way of calculating PCF. So we have kind of harmonized the comments into 70 feedback items that we are currently putting into the methodology. So very exciting months ahead for PACT and the publication of this V3. To publish this V3, we are organizing what we call the Scope 3 days from the 28th of the 30th to the 30th of April. It's a series of webinar, which the last one would be an event to share and publish the version 3 methodology, but we are also working on other webinars on the topic of tech and regulations. Also, one webinar that we will work together with Ollie in the Scope 3 peer group on how to get started, how the kind of company starts actually calculating a product carbon footprint or requesting data from their suppliers. So very exciting events that you can join. You can use the QR code to register to these events, and we will reach out shortly to invite you to these. Now moving from the methodology to the network space. So again, the network is this network of solutions that are packed conformant solutions, and that can enable you to exchange PCF data across the different solutions. But as part of the network, we're also hearing and looking into very interesting services that we can provide to the participants of the network, so the corporate companies themselves, and the solution providers, to ensure that we lower the barrier to enter this network and to, in fine, exchange the PCF data itself as easily as possible. So the first one that we wanted to share is that we have launched an identity management MVP. So this identity management is a critical element of a network. We need to know who is part of the network. We need to know which companies are part of this approach and that you can connect with to exchange the data, rather than having to reach out blindly to your suppliers and kind of fishing for ones that you use already packed. We have worked and created this identity management. Is still an MVP, but it's a way that will make it much, much easier for you to know which companies are using Pact and from which companies you can easily connect to start getting some supplier-specific product carbon footprints. On a different side of things, more on a service for the network, so the software providers that are part of the network to exchange data. We are progressing in an automated conformance testing. For all the solutions to become Pact conformant, they need to go through what we call conformance testing, and this is going to be automated hopefully very, very soon. And if you are a solution that part of the network and that you wouldn't want to learn more about this, please let us know. Very happy to share more. Speaking of solutions that can help you exchange PCF data, these are the current Pact conformant solutions. So any of these can help you in exchanging PCF data with any other solution that you see on the screen. And I will really highly recommend looking at the information that Miguel presented earlier that was done together with the Scope 3 peer group on how you can come about selecting one of these tools, or what companies are looking at when they are selecting one of these tools, because they really are your best ally in making it easier for you to get data or share data with customers. We really think at Pact that these solutions will make it much easier and will advance the topic of carbon transparency greatly. Of course, so we have both the methodology and the network that will help you advance your PCF journey. But at Pact, we also support companies that are interested in implementing these in their supply chains. So we have what we call implementation programs, which essentially supports you in getting that PCF data from your suppliers, understand how to set up the request, how to make it happen, but also understand how to use these technology solutions to enable it. We are companies driven, so we have a lot of peer exchange happening on the specifics of how to implement Pact and how to get product carbon footprint from your suppliers, how to engage with them. Also extra support for your company and your suppliers to ensure that everything is clear on how to implement Pact. So for this, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out as well. I'll put the email in the chat. Coming to an end, I'm actually not tracking time, but I will close shortly. We were also working with companies on specific key challenges regarding Scope 3. We prioritize a number of challenges, and the one that you see on the screen are the ones that were highly prioritized. So first, the PCF validation approach. So one thing is getting a lot of data from your suppliers, but another thing is being able to use it. And for that, you need a robust PCF validation approach. And this is a white paper that we've published that provides suggestion and guidance on how to actually put in place a PCF validation approach within your companies. Another big challenge was around understanding when and how to rebaseline due to methodological changes. And this is also something that we've published a white paper on, so you can access them via the QR code on the slide. We're now working on how to incentivize suppliers to share its product carbon footprint, including beyond Tier 1, and also working on how to achieve digital and data readiness for the supply chain, which is also a topic that shows promises, but also quite challenging for companies. Lastly, if you want to collaborate, we are very open to collaboration, whether it is about sharing more on your decarbonization journeys when it comes to PCF, if you want to do co-author expert insights or use cases, case studies, that's something we're always very interested to do. We do participate at events. Of course, very happy to have discussions on participation in events. If you want to speak at one of our events or inviting us to speak at one of your events, that's always something that we're very keen on. And for more, of course, you can look at our LinkedIn page. Sorry with the whole information, I'll leave back to you. But again, very excited about the closer relationship we will have. And I'm available for any question in the chat.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys. And it's so cool. I love the idea of the implementation program, the idea that you can actually help people go through that process and they can learn from their peers. I think that's very important. And yeah, really looking forward to working together with you. I think PCS isn't going to be done for a long time. We've got a lot to sort out. So it's great to see. It's great to see. Okay, we have 4 acronyms left. Okay, so just 4 acronyms to go before we can finish the meeting. And one of the most important. So the Science Based Targets Initiative, the SBTI. So Francesca is joining us and lots of happening at the SBTI. I think everyone can agree. So Francesca, over to you.
Thank you so much, Oliver, and hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Francesca Palamidessi, and I'm the SBTI Technical Partnership Lead, and I basically lead technical partnerships and collaborations with climate standards technical organizations, among which also the Scope 3 Forum. So I have prepared a couple of slides to entertain us all. Let me see if I'm able to share my screen.
Yeah, it's coming. Looking good. Yeah, we can see it. Presentation mode, and then you're good. There we go. Perfect.
Right. Great. So today I'm really pleased to share with you a bit of an update about the SBTI Corporate Net Zero Standard version 2.0. The Corporate Zero Standard is the flagship standard of SBTI. So I'm sure you all know who we are, but just in case, for those of you who are really unfamiliar, we are a corporate climate action organization, and we enable companies and financial institutions to set robust and credible GHG emission reduction targets. And we do that through development of standards, tool, and guidance documents. We actually happy to share that since actually 2015, our foundation, we were able to achieve 10,000 businesses having set or being actively committed to science-based targets, which is a fantastic number actually on this year, which is the celebration of our 10th anniversary. So really happy to share that with all of you. And today's objective for me, and thank you Ollie again for the invite, I would like to share with you all a bit of an outline on the rationale and the objective of the revision of the Corporate Net Zero Standard. Second, I would like to share some insights about the changes under exploration regarding the Corporate Net Zero Standard. And third of all, I would like to highlight the ways in which you can all get involved and stay involved in the Corporate Net Zero Standard revision and consultation. Yes. So before I go ahead, I just would like to share that of course, as you all know, all the proposed changes and modification to the standards are discussed are more speculative, because SBTI goes through a whole consultation process, and we have our technical council and board, and of course there may be revisions to this process. So I just wanted to have a bit that disclaimer before we go into the details. But Why are we revising the corporate net zero standard? The overall, so as you know, the corporate net zero standard outline how much and how quickly companies need to reduce GHG emissions to achieve net zero no later than 2050. So for most companies, net zero means reducing GHG emissions by at least 90% and neutralizing any residual GHG emissions on an ongoing basis. So these are basically the two components or the two conditions, if you will, to achieve a net zero. And so in terms of the revision, why are we revising the standard? So our overall aim of the revision is to make sure SBTi's corporate net zero standard continue to remain the go-to standard for setting and delivering on ambitious science-based targets, which are aligned with achieving net zero by 2050 at the latest. And we have, let's say, 4 key objectives for the review of the corporate net zero standard. You can see them on the screen. First of all, we would like to align it with the latest scientific thinking and best practice, such as the one from the IPCC, but also from the UN Secretary General. Next, we would like to address value chain emissions and all the challenges related to Scope 3 target setting and implementation, including updating the Scope 3 target framework, focusing more on implementation, but also exploring a more nuanced approach based on concepts like materiality, like significance and influence. The third objective is that we want to integrate a component of this continuous improvement when it comes to target delivery via regular target cycles, but also progressive requirements for companies over the target lifetime. So it's this concept about this continuous improvement cycle that we want to integrate within our standards. And lastly, we want to improve the structure of the standard itself and enhance our interoperability with our own SBTi standards, for those of you who use the sector-specific standards, but also with other standards, other relevant frameworks and climate standards. So these are basically the main objectives of this revision. Oh, sorry. And basically, since the launch of version 1 of the corporate net zero standard, you all know that we have been releasing lots of research, discussion papers, as the one on Scope 3 that was released in July 2024. And that paper basically outlined the main challenges around Scope 3, but also proposed some solutions. The main challenges the paper talks about is, for example, the aggregated Scope 3 emission as the primary metric, which is basically limited by the GHG, let's say, accounting variability, but also the role of the secondary data versus primary data. Another issue the paper looked at is about the target setting boundaries based on an emission threshold. That was leading to kind of misleading target formulation, but also the exclusion of certain big critical emission hotspots. And then the last issue the paper looked at is about the progress towards targets that can be challenging when it comes to the capacity that companies have when it comes to mitigating value chain emissions. So these were the 3 basically issues the paper looked on. And so what are we trying to do now? So we would like to move from a focus on aggregate Scope 3 emission-based targets without company differentiation of the boundary setting approach to a system where we can supplement current emissions-based targets with outcome-based metrics that measure alignment of activities with net zero and allow a bit more nuanced approach to target setting boundaries, but also to account with concepts like I mentioned before, materiality and influence. So this is a bit the idea, and there were 3 potential solutions that were discussed in the paper. One was about what are the comprehensive tools that we can use to address value chain emissions. It was about indeed having a more nuanced approach to target setting boundaries. And then the third potential solution was about considering influence as a concept in the target setting framework. So basically, with this discussion paper and these potential solutions, those are the elements in which the technical department has been working on all these months. And then in terms of the continuous improvement and progress, it's about the proposal of having this new approach to assess and communicate progress. We would like to see the progress that has been achieved and how, from setting targets, what does it mean, and how companies are working on progressing on those targets. Introducing a process to set and validate new targets at the end of the target cycle. And lastly, it's about those claims that are associated with progress and target delivery. So this is a bit where the conversations are right now and how it will look like. Basically, this is this continuous cycle, continuous improvement cycle that I mentioned at the beginning, and progress assessment. So basically, the corporate net zero standard will transition from ambition only to include ambition and performance as 2 additional concepts that allow us to have this bit cycle from setting a baseline to setting targets to validating targets, communicate those targets, implement targets, and finally assess the progress that has been achieved over the target set in correspondence of the year of those targets. So with that, and with this, I will also wrap up only. So how can you get involved? So this is an extremely crucial process. We have different ways in which you can get involved. You can, of course, give us feedback throughout the whole time in our project feedback form, which is always available online. The public consultation of the Corporate Net Zero Standard version 2 will be open around March, starting from March. And then there will be lots of opportunities for webinars, for workshops. Hopefully, we will be able to present again to all of you. But also, there are 2 opportunities for application process. One is we will be opening for pilot testing. There will be more information being shared in the next months. And then there is now a call to action to join our expert working groups. The expert working groups are specific groups that will discuss specific topic expertise, and we reply to research questions on which we have been working on. The applications open already mid-February, and the deadline will be this Friday, 28th of February. So there are still, let's say, 2 days to apply. And if any of you is interested, I will follow up with the link here in the chat so that you can also apply. Any organizations can apply, and there will be 20 maximum of representatives per working group. The working group will be 5 working groups, and the working groups will be topical. So each working group will discuss a different topic. And the topics are these 5 from scope 2, which will be focusing more on purchase or acquire electricity, to scope 3, focusing more on target setting approaches, strategies, and interventions when it comes to value chain emissions. Then there will be a group on removal, and this group will mainly discuss neutralization and CDR, but also removal targets. Then the group 4 will focus on ongoing emissions and beyond value chain mitigation, and will focus on the transition to net zero through BVCM activities, but also reply to questions in terms of how to scale actions and what are the let's say, allowable measures that we can consider. And then the last but not least is the group about data quality, data assurance, and claims. And we'll discuss about indeed aspects about the quality of data, primary data, secondary data, assurance requirements, and also claims types and claims assessment, and also including those concepts that we discussed so far in terms of progress and assessing progress, also related to claims. So this was my update. You can sign up to the newsletter by using this QR code here on the slide. And I will update the timeline here. I see application closing in 2 days. I'm sorry. It's 28th of February, the deadline. So make sure that if you're interested, that you apply on time, and we look forward to receive lots of applications and lots of interested experts. Thank you so much. Ollie, I'll pass back the microphone to you.
Lovely, lovely. Thank you. And you've got a few questions in the chat, so I'll ask you to maybe pop in there and answer them. But perhaps one straight away was SBTi net zero interoperability with other standards. Will you be considering ISO net zero as one of those?
Yeah, I'm actually, my team is actually leading on that. We are, SBTi is a liaison A status of the ISO process, ISO committee, and we have 4 representatives in the ISO Net Zero Working Group. We are working together with them on their draft, actually, that has been now circulated among the working group participants. And there will be also a meeting in Paris for the working group participant under the ISO Net Zero standard. So we will be going there, and we are actually on regular catch-up calls with them. We see that ISO, SBTi will be extremely complementary standards. ISO is, of course, an international standard focused on consensus-based. Science-based target is a voluntary standard focusing on setting targets. We are science-based, so of course the 2 standards will definitely complement, and we'll be able to kind of scale actually the adoption from the private sector. So we really look forward also to see their draft coming for public consultations in a couple of months, and we look forward to continue with them. So there will be lots of events and opportunities where you will see us both together joining forces, and hopefully we will also be able to release some statements on how we are currently collaborating. But thank you for the question.
Awesome. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind going to the chat, there's a few more questions for you, Francesca. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'm sure you're going to have more questions, even more now, but it's great to see the progress. Okay, 3 more people, 15 minutes. That's 5 minutes each, and then I will look like a genius for putting this agenda together. So welcome back to Owen Hewlett. Good to see you again, my friend, from the Gold Standard and AIM. Give us an update on what you guys have been doing.
Yeah, hi, Oliver. I'll attempt to share my screen, but I'll crack on anyway, just in case it doesn't work. So hi, everybody. Lovely to see so many friendly faces. Owen Hewlett, Chief Technical Officer, the Gold Standard Foundation, and relevant here as well, sit on SBTi's Technical Council, Greenhouse Gas Protocol Standards Board, and I co-founded the Value Change Initiative, which I worked on with Francesca, which is a nice connection. But here today representing the AIM Platform Initiative, which is a collaboration we launched with friends at C2ES and the Centre for Green Market Activation. And the specific challenge it's looking at, to be laser focused, is what should count against a Scope 3 target. And traditionally that has been direct physical abatement based on the GHG inventory in Scope 3. And we all know, I think, in this group, that gives you lots of headaches, like visibility, like count, like dynamic supply chains. Basically, if I enact a change with those suppliers, will I be able to count it, and will I be able to continue to count it in future years? So on a spectrum from only things that you can directly trace and allocate count, right through to the other end of the spectrum, anything counts as long as it's mitigation. What we're looking at is, when is it credible to associate an intervention, is the word we use, an activity that reduces emissions that is credibly associated with a company's value chain such that it could count against a target. And that sort of nestles within that challenge, that area of update that Francesca just mentioned in terms of scope 3 value chains being a critical area of development. And so really what we're doing is two big things. One is an association test. So working through how to assess whether an intervention is suitably associated with a component of the inventory and suitably associated in terms of the abatement it drives. And then secondly, what criteria need to be in place for that intervention itself to be credible. So that's where you get into things like MRV, for example. And we're not associated with the Greenhouse Gas Protocol or SBTI, but there's a close consultation there. So trying to directly respond to a kind of shared challenge and provide the sort of detailed tools and guidance that I guess preempt in some way the flexibility that will inevitably be needed in scope 3. I won't dwell on this slide.
We can't see your slides moving, but we can see your first slide. You've got it out of display mode. That's just to let you know.
Okay.
You did warn us, don't worry.
Yeah, not to worry. I'm just going to leave it there. I'll just wrap up by saying, like I say, we've got right now out to consultation the association test. You can find that on the AIM platform website, which I'll put in the chat. There's also a public pilot test happening there as well. There's 20 companies participating in that association test, and that's to figure out if it's practicable to do it that way. So anybody interested in looking at that association test, please feel free to send us consultation comments. If you'd like to be a pilot testing partner, then certainly open to that as well. So please do share that with us. And then the timeline's roughly middle of the year, we'll be releasing the criteria for interventions and an update on the association test. And the idea is to wrap that by the end of 2025. So by the end of 2025, there'll be an association test and final criteria for interventions. And we're writing that in a way that is normative language. So it's written as a standard so that parts of it or all of it could be adopted by or recognized by or used in association with things like ISO or SBTI. So look out for that coming later down the pipe. And sorry for my slides. I'll put those links in the chat, Ollie, and I'll put my email address there too. Yep.
Nice one. If you send me the slides, I'll send them around with everyone. But yeah, put the links in the chat as well. And yeah, it was really good to see that news as well. I think there's some really good stuff happening there, and always good to see you. Thanks for coming on. And right, okay, Emma Arnold from Trio, if you're there. So a number of different industry groups now forming under the Scope 3 peer group banner, automotive, chemicals, pharma, all connected in to the Scope 3 peer group. And there's some really, really good stuff happening in automotive. So I wanted to invite Emma Arnold on to share a little bit more about that. So are you there, Emma?
I am. Are you seeing my screen at all?
We are. Yours works fine. I mean, now looks even worse. I mean, honestly.
No, don't worry. So really nice to be here this afternoon, and it was really lovely to meet quite a few of you at the event in January. But I just wanted to come in and give a quick plug for the Transform Auto program that we are running with Suppliers Partnership for the Environment. For those of you that may not have heard about this at the January event, where we hosted a kind of auto-specific workshop, and I also spoke a little bit about it on the third day. So Transform Auto is a program that was launched last autumn, so about October time. It's currently mainly focused on the US, but is actively moving to Europe this year. So it's powered by a number of, so it was formed through Suppliers Partnership for the Environment. So they ran a competitive tender for this last year that Trio was successful in, but mainly because we've been running a similar program with Honda for quite a few years now. And it was sponsored by Ford, GM, Honda, Magna, and Toyota. So they're the kind of current sponsors of the US program. And we've currently getting quite a bit of interest from the European OEMs to kind of expand this program into Europe. So it's mostly aimed at helping the supply chains of the automotive sector take action to decarbonize. So for the suppliers, for the sort of project sponsors, they can minimize costs and the complexity across their supply chain by pulling the program together as one program. really helping the supply chain to take action. And if the supply chain is taking action on their scope 2, then that's reducing the OEM scope 3. And for suppliers, it's completely free of charge. So the aim is to kind of take away all of those excuses as to why you can't do something. It's an educational program first and foremost, but then it gets very quickly into action. So you sign up into particular cohorts, and there's cohorts for solar, there's cohorts for community solar, there's cohorts for PPAs. So you kind of choose your lever that you want to kind of sign up to. And like I said, this has been going since October, and we've already kind of got cohorts forming to collaborate on these actions. So it's very quick and action driven. So it's not something that kind of rolls on for a number of years and nothing actually gets done. We're really focused on actually getting stuff done. Some of the decarbonisation levers that we're pulling sort of information together on, as I said, on-site and off-site solar, helping with EAC procurements, PPA aggregation, and then beyond this, it has the similar things with a lot of the supply chain programs that we saw at the event. I think they're all quite similar. Obviously screening suppliers on maturity and putting suppliers into different swim lanes depending on their maturity. So it has all of that already. It's powered by a website, so it's very easy. So suppliers just log into the website, they fill in some basic information, they're put into a swim lane, and then hopefully they will come out of it with cohorts of companies that have similar ambition. So what we're doing at the moment, my kind of call to action, is really, if you are part of the auto sector, either as a kind of sponsor or a supply chain, then please get in touch. I'll put my email after this into the chat. And we're currently having a number of kind of introductory meetings across Europe to expand this into Europe. So time's now to obviously get involved. Hopefully that was meeting your 5 minutes.
No,
I realized I've
Honestly.
spoken quite a lot, quite fast, but I'm happy to answer any questions in the chat.
No, it was an extremely popular share in London. I know many people were inspired by it, and obviously we work very closely with the Suppliers Partnership, the Automotive Collaboration in North America. So it's great to see them taking action, and I know that Ford and Honda and others are very, very, very excited about it. So well done, and look forward to hearing more from you in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, final acronym, EDF. Ellen, are you there? Bring us home, Ellen. Bring us home.
I am, and no pressure on being the last one. Hi everyone, I'm Ellen Chenette from Environmental Defense Fund, and I work on our Net Zero Action Accelerator initiative. So we're trying to get net zero resources out there at scale to help decarbonize operations and supply chains. I just want to say it's such an inspiring session to hear all of what everyone's working on. So I'm really impressed with all of this. And I also, as the one to close out, maybe just want to say that the work that everyone's doing is more important than ever. And I just hope you all know that. And, I know there's so many of us that want to support this work. So on our team, just wanted to share a couple of things. I don't have slides, just a couple of things that we're thinking about. One of them is working with key operational leaders a little bit more to embed climate strategies throughout the core business strategy and operations. We recently did a workshop on that at GreenBiz, which I'm going to put a toolkit that we made in the chat that came out of that's available. We also have a page on the business case for sustainability, which I think is always a useful tool at this time. So I will put that in the chat as well. And then a couple of things to look out for. We are developing some new online courses. One of them is on corporate net zero basics. That could be a good opportunity for your low maturity suppliers to get started on their climate journey. It's a free online training course we're launching later this year. We're also looking into doing some work this year on sustainable supply chain finance and how to kind of strategize your scope 3 work around that as a lever. So very keen to work with others on these topics. If anyone's interested in partnering, please reach out, and everyone can just keep up the great work. We really love all of this. So I'll put those links in the chat now. Thanks, Ollie.
Thanks, Ellen. And of course, you guys are going to be running our supplier engagement workshop in Chicago. So thank you for doing that. And as I said, thank you also for raising the point that it's been a difficult few weeks for everyone. I'm pretty, it's water off a duck's back to me, I guess. I'm kind of that kind of guy, but I appreciate that everyone else, it's been a tough few weeks. I know it's been a tough few hours, well, a couple of hours. So thanks everyone for going through it. There is so much quality going on. And again, all the activities that you can now select to go and do, that's where we really get together as peers, we chat, we learn, we're there, the workshops. This is really the giant crazy update meeting. But there is so much great stuff happening. So yeah, do check out the poll, check out the survey. If you've got it, just email me if it's easier. I'll point you in the right direction. Do contact each other, do support each other. You're all peers, you're all there to learn from each other. Do follow up, contact each other, especially those that are in London. You've got plenty of following up to do. There really is no excuses. How many resources are out there? I mean, just too much, almost. We certainly don't have any excuses for lack of resources. Just a huge thanks to all of you, over 200 of you for this meeting. That's amazing. And hopefully you'll join us for the workshops. And I'll hopefully see many of you in Chicago. One final thing, if any of you play golf, I've finally managed to fulfill my dream. I've created a sustainable golf day in July in the UK, in Birmingham. And I've decided it's going to be sustainability versus procurement. Who will win, like Ryder Cup style, okay? So it's going to get tasty between those two professions. So if you're in sustainability or in procurement, or know someone in sustainability procurement who occasionally picks up the sticks and plays golf, I like particularly people who aren't very good, because that makes me look good. So invite them to that golf day, get in touch, 4th of July. It should be a lot of fun. So yeah, because there aren't enough things in my diary. But that one I can make an exception for. All the slides, all the recording will come up afterwards. All the chat will be digested and shared. I'm sure a lot of you have answered a lot of questions for everybody. But thank you and see you soon.